Welcome to our next prompt. In this lesson, we'll work around multiple colors to portray a pink sunset sky and palm tree silhouette. I have here a freshly squeezed quinacridone magenta, and using my liner brush, I place some paint markings in the lower part of the paper. Again, this serves as my horizon line. Next, I moisten my yellow-orange paint and dab some thick amount of paint using my brush just above the quinacridone magenta. Another color I will add is cobalt violet. Now let's begin the watercolor flow. I tilt my paper, then begin spraying with water. See how all the colors start to bleed and flow with each other. I generously spray water and see how the colors spread wildly. Now that the paper is wet, I load my flat brush with water, get a watery pigment, and literally drop water puddles all over. I make sure the purple color is very light in tone so it won't create muddy mixtures. I move my paper in different directions to help the colors blend naturally with each other. I spray more water to encourage the paints to flow even more. Now I add some more drops of purple to make them blend with pink paint. As you add more purple color, make sure that the tonal value is almost the same as the tonal value of the pink puddles on your paper. You can splatter some more paint and spray water through your spray bottle. Doing this makes the edges really soft. Notice how watery my paper is. I also dab the concentrated paints at the base so they would all the more bleed and create a strong gradient. Again, the key here is not to panic, but just enjoy and play. As long as the paper is wet, the paints will just dance on the paper. Trust that you will never go wrong even when you let the water paint on its own. I moisten the bottom part with a very light pink wash. I also add some strokes of light purple, but not to the point of manipulating the background texture. Now I get a small flat brush and try to lift some paint to create an impression of island here on this chunk of color. I carefully lift the color off while the paint is still moist. So here I notice a puddle of water. I try to spread it and let it flow downwards to prevent my paper from buckling. Now I get a heat gun and dry the fragment a little bit so the paint around the color lift won't move anymore. Since the fragment is still moist, I'll drop in some dark violet color to create contrast against this color lift. I wanted to create an impression of an island where the palm tree is planted. I just let the brush touch the base and let it bleed naturally on the paper. I make the base a bit darker by adding some more paints over it. Now let's dry this fragment once more in preparation to painting the palm tree. Make sure that we paint the tree on a dry paper to make the shape really defined. Using perylene violet mixed with cobalt violet and a bit of indigo, I create a very thick and rich mix of paint for the palm. I also use a size 6 synthetic brush for this. I started my stroke with some dry brush markings to create connection between the tree and the island. I use the heat gun again as my paper is still cold. Now starting from the trunk, I do an upward stroke. The trunk should not be straight. Make it slightly angled and irregular in shape. Next, I paint the leaves with quick up-down strokes using just the tip of the brush. I initially draw the outline of the leaf spine that will serve as my guide when painting the lines. Notice that my brush is at almost 90-degree angle to make it easier to create thin strokes. The paint has to be very creamy and almost dry so that you can create defined strokes. Try to have all the leaves meet in one center despite having different forms or facing different directions. I repeat the same quick and repetitive up-down strokes to make the tree look fuller. Next, let's darken one side of the leaves for dimension. And then I'll paint a darker layer over the tree trunk with a dry brush. Make sure to connect the base of the trunk to the island with some extra strokes. I'll add a bit of orange accents on random spots here and there. Now our painting is complete. This is our third class project.